It's a beautiful spring evening, and we are at St. Francis High School in Mountain View. And despite it being spring, we're here to watch varsity Central Coast section football, and we're glad for it. I'm Mark Diamond, here with Mike Messner. Tonight, the St. Francis Lancers will be competing against the Valley Christian Warriors. We have a fourth and final conference game between these two Catholic West League teams. And with that, Valley Christian received, and they brought it out to about the 20-yard line. St. Francis has a 2-1 overall record and 1-0 within their league. They're currently ranked 19th in the Bay Area. Valley Christian also has an overall 2-1 record and are 2-0 in their league. The Warriors have come out strong this season and are currently ranked fourth by the Mercury News. The last time these two teams faced each other was back in September of 2019, with St. Francis taking the win 28-7. Tonight is the final regular game of a heroic season. The teams have only had a fraction of the normal preseason practice, and it looks like we are 1st and 10 for the Warriors. Jake Ajaybu coming up the right, and he's able to actually get a first down the very first snap there. He's going to dance the ball to the Valley Christian 43-yard line, and it's going to be another 1st and 10. You know, Mike, despite the fact that these teams have had very little play, we've seen some great fall football being played between these two. It's been a bridge season. But it's quite frankly great to see these kids playing right now.
Well, you know, Mark, the thing that I think of for this is a dignity game as much as anything else. I mean, it is a shortened season, as you said. Both of these teams coming in with a 2-1 overall record. We don't know what the playoff scenario or whether there will be any sort of playoff scenario. And then the other thing that I think of is that the numbers in this game all favor Valley Christian. If you take a look at the stats on this rushing yards per game, passing yards per game, total yards, points, sacks, just about all of the main numerical statistics in this tonight's contest, Mark, Valley Christian seems to hold the edge.
That last play, Elijah McLemore was the ball carrier. He's able to get about 3 yards, 2nd and 7. But a flag goes down. We'll see what that's about. We'll see which side. And it looks like it's going to be encroachment against the Lancers, so that's going to move the box up another 5 yards. So we're going to be looking at about 2nd and 3 at this point.
Did you notice, Mark, that now Valley Christian, after only one play from, or really 2 plays from scrimmage, I suppose, they're already into Lancer territory. Yep. That may set the tone for this half.
That's right. They pushed it past midfield at this point. Chase Lawback had that, but he didn't get too far with it. Probably a loss of about a yard. That brings up 3rd down.
That was Camilo Arquette there on the penetration, and he just didn't give the runner a chance at all. Camilo, 6 foot, 210, and that's his 19th tackle this year, and he's one of the few St. Francis Lancers that has recorded a sack so far this year.
Jackson Berman decides to keep it. He actually runs, and he makes it all the way down to the 39-yard line. Another 1st down for the Warriors. You know, both teams are coming off a very strong performance from last week. St. Francis defeated Archbishop Mitty 41-8, and Valley Christian blanked Bellarmine 36-0. With closely matched records, both the Valley Christian and the St. Francis teams are coming into this game tonight with expectations that they're going to win. So I think we're in for an excellent game tonight.
It's going to be a close game, and just talking about Jackson Berman, who's the quarterback right now for Valley Christian, he's got some pretty good passing statistics, but his rushing statistics are actually much better. So I'm not sure that that wasn't an actual plan for his scramble there.
Hand off to Jake Ojegbu. He gets pushed out about the 20-yard line.
Or did he slip? I can't see.
Hard to say. But he did go out because the clock did stop, and they're going to be on the 21. Another first down for the Warriors.
Kind of a delayed handoff there. And you can see that Ojegbu, that's his 27th carry of the season, Mark, and he's also rushed for 2 touchdowns. So he's going to be an offensive weapon to reckon with.
You know, the Warriors came to this game with a plan. Obviously, they're executing their plan. They're marching it down the field. I mean, a very good start for the Warriors.
Lined up at the left hash mark. That is an interesting choice.
Jackson Berman cuts around the right and actually finally gets pulled down. He a little bit of a risk there, but he was able to make something out of it. And with that, they're going to spot that at about on the 15-yard line. So that's a gain of about 4 yards.
You know, Mark, the thing that really impressed me on that was the block.
Oh, actually, we have a flag down, so let's hold on a little bit. Let's see what
All
this
right.
is about.
Well, it was against St. Francis. We'll see what the official call was. But on the play back there, okay, Elijah McLemore, the running back, okay, not the biggest guy on the team. He's only 5'9", 180 pounds, but he just pancaked one of the defensive ends who was trying to sack Jake Ojegbu, or the quarterback. That's Jackson Berman, I beg your pardon.
So with that spot, they're going to spot on the 7, and it's going to be first and goal for the Warriors.
That's the second penalty tonight on the Lancers, Mark.
You know, if you're the Lancers, they're going to have to be very careful because they're playing a very good team, and you just can't eat yards with these penalties. You have to be much more careful than this. Chase Lawbuck bringing that a few more yards in.
You know, something interesting about Chase, who just carried the ball, okay, he has had one game, and this is a very short season, we know this, but he's actually carried for at least one 100-plus yard game so far this season. This may be the second one.
Second and goal, Warriors. Elijah McLemore again, the ball carrier, and they get a stop on that.
That's Camilo Arquette again. He's racked up a whole bunch of tackles so far. Maybe we can see that again.
And it looks like Arona Matua got the stop on that.
Yes,
and,
he was in on it too.
Right now, sitting third and goal. And that is a touchdown completion to Jurian Dickey. Jurian brings it into the end zone, and very quickly the Warriors get on the board with 6 points.
Well, when you saw that the Warriors had tried a couple of running plays. They hadn't had a whole lot of success in that series, so they sent Jurian Dickey out on a corner route. Maybe we can see it there. He was well covered, but he turned at just the right moment, managed to come up with the pass. That's his 4th touchdown of the year.
And that's going to be Will Cuddy for the PAT, which is good. So with 7 minutes left just in the first quarter, the Valley Christian Warriors take a 7-0 lead over the St. Francis Lancers.
Well, Will Cuddy, there's so much we can say about each of these young men and young women that are on this team. But, Mark, one thing about Will Cuddy, he's, kicked 7 PATs. He has never had one blocked.
And I think that's amazing, especially because really a lot of these teams are relatively new. There's been a significant amount of shakeup in the rosters and the staff because of the pandemic, and so a lot of these teams have just come together and haven't had a lot of practice. But again, we are seeing some really good football, and quite frankly, by both teams.
Well executed there by both teams, but I would say that the unforced errors on St. Francis really cost them. We'd still be out seeing a struggle if that had not for those penalties.
And that's going to roll back. So if we look at the West Catholic Football League standings, Sarah, St. Ignatius, and Valley Christian are all ahead 2-0. Again, it's an abbreviated season. St. Francis is just 1-0, and in part because they've had one fewer league game. In my book, that's close to a tie.
Well, you got to have realistic expectations on a season this short, and I think a lot of people in the media are making allowances for that, and rightfully so.
So that was good for about 3 yards. That's going to bring up 2nd and 7. That's going to hand off to Adonis Hernandez. Adonis is able to squeeze a couple more yards. That's still going to leave the Lancers 3rd and about 3 at this point.
And that's Jawan Dickey, who is there on the stop, and he was being very demonstrative there, saying he's not going anywhere. Jawan Dickey, 6'3", 330 pounds, and he's a senior, so this is probably his last game at Ron Calcaño Stadium.
And that ball gets dropped by Joshua Perry. But he's able to grab it back. So all in all, it's not only a recovery, but it's also a first down for the Lancers. That's sort of a fortunate drop, and they're able to get the first down out of that.
How many yards did he gain on that play? Did you see that?
It was about 4 yards. It was very close, but it was enough for the first down.
Okay. He's carried, that's the 7th time he's carried this year. His longest run is 17 yards. So Josh Perry can beat you with his feet as well as he can beat you with his arm, if not more so.
All right, 1st and 10 Lancers. Hand off to Villamy 2. And again, Lancers are just making, small, short progress, trying to run up the middle.
It's a little thing, I mean, those small things. But if you put together a winning team, many times it's going to be the sum of small things. The drawback to that is that eventually you're going to need a big play, and we may see that a little later on tonight.
Hand off to Camilo Arquette. And Arquette does not get much out of that either, just another yard or so.
You know, Mark, if you look back at this, so you can see that the defensive line, they're going to shift a little bit to the right because they could read that play coming in. And I think that was the thing that made the difference because they were ready for that run by St. Francis.
It seems like the Warriors D-line has been very good at reading them so far. I know we're early into the game, but very successful in trying to get the stop. Again, Adonis Hernandez, but he's actually going to probably lose a yard on that one. So we'll see where they put it, but that's going to bring up 4th down. And the St. Francis punt squad comes onto the field. You know, one of the differences between these two teams is the size of the roster. You know, the Lancers have a much, much bigger roster. 70 so players. The Warriors have 40 so. And with that, we have a flag. How is that going to affect them later in the game? Do you think that, you know, the Warriors are going to get tired through this, or?
Well, that may be part of their strategy. I mean, if they can get that first one the way they did tonight, they're now leading, okay, with 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. They are going to have fewer players, but they will not be playing from behind if they continue to dominate on this. And so that may be an offsetting factor for the number of players that they have.
Good kick, and that gets fielded by Jurian Dickey again. And Jurian's able to bring it out to the 43-yard line.
That was Patty Casey kicking there, Mark. And that's the 4th time that he has punted. I don't know if the press box, how far that punt was measured, but his longest coming into tonight was 37 yards.
That was close. That was about a 34-yard kick.
Not bad.
And again, it's a relatively calm in the stadium, just a little bit of breeze, but not too much wind out there tonight. Okay, we're at it again. 1st and 10 Warriors. Hand off to Jake Ojegbu, but they were on that.
And a flag on the play, too.
So that's going to be holding, and that's going to go against the Warriors. So they go back.
First time that the Warriors have been called for a penalty.
So they're going to spot that on the 31-yard line. It's not going to be 1st and 20. Jason Berman tries to find a seam. He's able to get 10 yards out of that, but that's going to now leave them about 2nd and 10.
That's the second time that Jackson Berman has been able to escape. He's rolled to his left, and again, I think this may have been part of the overall offensive scheme. I don't know if he was flushed from the pocket as much as he just took off on his own. Coming into tonight's game, Mark, Jackson had rushed 27 times and he picked up 109 yards, and he's probably picked up about 20 since we started.
Another throw by Jackson, and that gets a completion. Charlie Kinney. Charlie was formerly with Los Altos Eagles, and that is going to be good for another Warrior first down.
Nice scheme there. Maybe we can see that again. Kinney not quite doing a crossing route, but not quite a fly route there either, and it was just enough to get the first down. I don't think Kinney really sat there once he'd completed his route. I mean, he just turned and the ball was right in his face.
That was also intended for Charlie Kinney, a little bit high, and that's going to fall to the ground incomplete. And that's going to bring up 2nd and 10.
Charlie Kinney coming into tonight's contest, Mark, he'd only caught the ball twice. His longest reception to date is for 21 yards.
Second and 10 again. Michael Talali was all over that. He gets a stop. That's going to be a tackle for a loss of about 3 yards, and that's going to push him back. Yeah, he just anticipated that and was right on it, and good for the stop on that.
Yeah.
And with that, we have the end of the first quarter. And so, as it currently stands, the Valley Christian Warriors 7, the St. Francis Lancers 0.
You know, Mark, on that last stop by number 60, Michael there, okay, that's his 11th tackle for the year, but here's another interesting statistic, okay? He's hurried passers 4 times and maybe a 5th time. So he's definitely a defensive lineman's defensive lineman for this St. Francis club.
That was intended for Jurian Dickey. Couldn't quite get a hand on it, and again, that fell for an incompletion. And so now, Valley Christian has about 4th and 12. The ball's at midfield. We're going to have to see what decision they make. Are they going to try and go for it?
I wouldn't. If I were the coach, I figure you got a 7-point lead. We're in the second quarter. You're going to give the Lancers not the greatest field position, and it looks like they are going to kick it away, Mark.
Okay. That was Nico Andrighetto, ball carrier on that. Nico was able to bring that back about 15 yards. They're going to spot that all the way on the 28-yard line. And actually, there is a flag down. We'll see what this one's about. So that looks like it's going to be a personal foul against St. Francis, and so they are going to go back 15 yards. You know, St. Francis keeps on committing these penalties. It's just hurting them. It just makes it that much harder.
Well, it's unenforced errors that are the reason that St. Francis, as much as anything else, Mark, that's the reason that they're down 7 points right now. This is the 4th time in the first half that they've been called for penalties, all of which could have been avoided. But
I sense a little bit of frustration on the San Francisco side that they had higher expectations and they don't like being behind, but they just can't let that frustration come out through poor penalties.
On their offense, yes, I would absolutely agree. Their defense at least has stepped up a little bit. Late in the first quarter, the defensive coordinator was dialing up some blitzes, and they really were very effective in stopping the Valley Christian run game.
Okay, 1st and 10. Villamy, too, tried to break through, couldn't get very far. Again, the Valley Christian D-line is just anticipating pretty well tonight and stopping these run plays.
What that says to me, Mark, is that Valley Christian has done their homework, and so far I haven't seen as much evidence that St. Francis has. And don't forget, that's coming from a high school educator.
Yes.
So I know what I'm talking about.
Second and 7. And that is completed by number 85, Dylan Golden.
That was an amazing catch. I don't think that ball was particularly well thrown.
But he managed to hold it and stay in bounds, and that's good for the first down.
And that may be his, I don't remember exactly how many yards that was for. His longest reception is 18 yards. He's only caught the ball twice before tonight. And the good news for the Lancers is he'll be back next year. He's only a junior.
First and 10, St. Francis.
You can see that shift on the D-line by Valley Christian.
And that's again Camilo Arquette. And just a few yards on that. He's going to get about 4, but that's going to leave 2nd and 6.
Mark, did you notice that there was that shift again, and then St. Francis tried to counter it by running to the weak side, but not the greatest gain on that. So St. Francis knows what Valley Christian is going to do. They just haven't figured out a way around it yet.
So it seems to me that the Lancers, with the exception of a few plays, are really just trying to play more of a ground game. And it's just the point that they should shift a little bit and get the ball in the air a little bit more.
It will hold true. We'll have to see what happens in the rest of this series.
There we got a pitch to Villamot-2, and again gets stopped.
I think I see a marker down,
and we
Mark.
do have a flag. And that's going to be a personal foul. Again, yet another penalty. Personal foul against the Lancers, and all the progress they're making, they're just going back again.
And that really hurts, Mark, because the Lancers were starting to move the ball a little bit with the run and then the one pass that we saw a few plays ago. But John Madden said it best. He said a personal foul never goes unpunished. So that's 15 yards, and the St. Francis is almost back where they started.
So far, the Warriors have been pretty good about holding the upper hand in the momentum of the game. They clearly had the momentum on the first drive. They've been able to hold the momentum, and quite frankly, the Lancers need to regain the momentum on this and stop the penalties. Again, that was intended for Dylan Golden. It was within his vicinity, but he just couldn't haul it in, and so that's going to drop for another incompletion, and that's going to bring up 3rd and long.
And that was what we were saying, that they needed to go to their aerial assault, if you will, and that's why when you saw St. Francis had 2 wide receivers and a tight end, and the pass was to Dylan Golden, who was lined up as a tight end there, okay, and he usually does line up as a tight end, still not successful. So we're seeing a lot of, you talked about the Valley Christian execution. So far, St. Francis just isn't executing particularly well.
How much of that is because the Warriors are being successful in pressuring the Lancers quarterback?
Well, I don't know how much of the pass rush is happening, but I do know that they have called up oh!
And then we have a ball that went on the ground.
So I think that may have been, let's see that again. And he was sacked, but they did come up with
So they
the
did
ball.
recover. But again, even with that recovery, that's going to leave fourth and long with the ball all the way stuck on the Lancers' 15-yard line.
And
so
St. Francis doesn't have a choice now.
Yeah, they're obviously going to have to kick this at this point. Nico Andrighetto's punter. Jurian Dickey had it, but he decided to try and cut back, and the Lancers took advantage of that, and so they were able to push him back about 10 yards, and so they're going to, he was at midfield, and now they're going to mark that. No forward progress because he went back on his own volition all the way back on the Warrior 42. No, actually, they're going to put it back on the 48-yard line. So they are going to give him a little bit of forward progress, but he could have had more on that.
That's your frustration showing up, that the St. Francis hasn't been able to stop the Warriors on defense. They haven't been able to get any points on offense. So their special teams came in and really executed well. I admire that job.
Hand off to Elijah McLemore. And Elijah is able to get about 3 yards out of that, 2nd and 7. And they're going to spot that ball just a little past midfield into Lancer territory on the 49-yard line. You know, if the Lancers want to change the momentum in the half, this is the time for them to be able to do that. They have to get the stop on this drive.
Yeah, and then they need to get that first one. So, 7-7, then 14-7, and then build on it.
And they need to give themselves much better field position than they have so far. That was Chase Lawback, and they were able to hold him back to just a couple yards.
Chase did a nice job spinning away from some would-be tacklers there, though.
So that's going to bring up 3rd and 4th. Well, I'm going to say this is really a very critical play for the Lancers. This is the time that they need to get the stop if they want to change the momentum.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh, and that was almost picked by 37. Jackson Berman was pressured and just sort of threw it away, but he has to be careful on that because almost got a pick on that, and that's going to leave 4th down, and looks like the Warriors are going to punt this one.
That was the stop that you said they needed, Mark, and that number one was Jackson Berman throwing that ball where he shouldn't have thrown it, and Patty Casey very nearly came up with his first interception. He has defended passes in the past, but on that one, he almost got it picked off.
Well, not a good move on Jackson because had he been tackled, it's already 4th down anyway, and so
right.
The return by Nico Andrighetto, and we saw a lot of energy in there. Nico, we saw a good spurt on that, and he was able to bring that out. They're going to put that on the 34-yard line.
Yeah, Nico had a lot of momentum on that return, and I thought that he probably lost the ability to maneuver quite as much as he should have, but still a pretty decent return.
Villamateu was the ball carrier on that, and he was able to get a respectable 4 yards. That's a good start. 2nd and 6.
So now St. Francis got the stop. The question now is, Mark, what are they going to do with it now that they've gotten the ball back? Are they going to be able to put points on the board? Especially because you look at the clock, we've only got about 6 minutes and change left in the first half. St. Francis has got to get some points if they want to have any momentum heading into halftime.
You do not want to go into the locker room down 7.
And especially being shut out.
Adonis Hernandez was able to break through and get on that, and so we have a first down for St. Francis, and they're able to bring the ball out to the 48, 1st and 10.
Adonis is a great runner. He's carried the ball coming into tonight. He's carried the ball 22 times. He ripped off a 45-yard run at one point, but he's also fumbled the ball away twice. So he's somebody that they will use selectively, I think.
We got a good run by Adonis Hernandez. Again, Adonis is able to bring it all the way out, not only the first down and bring it farther into Warrior territory. We'll see where they're going to spot that, but we're finally seeing some real energy, some life on the side of the Lancers. I think they were put on their heels a little bit in the first quarter, but we see them pushing back at this point.
And it's being done on the ground. You haven't seen a whole lot of passes being thrown so far by Joshua Perry or any other quarterback that the Lancers have used so far tonight.
Again, both teams coming from a resounding victory last week, and they're just trying to get back in their groove. Okay, we have a good completion to Carmelo Arquette. He takes it, goes all the way down to the 10, finally gets brought down by Charlie Kinney, number 6. But he's able to make it all the way out, and they're going to put that on about the 9 or 10-yard line. Again, we're seeing the surge of energy of St. Francis.
Very impressive run there, and it's even more impressive when you consider that was just a swing pass. I think that might have been on just a perfect horizontal pass. That was not thrown up the field at all, and Kinney was able to bring it within the Valley Christian red zone.
The Warriors, who were able to actually really get a good, strong defense during the first quarter, now feel a little bit like they're on their heels in this quarter. We'll see if Lancers can take advantage of this. Villamy 2, again, the ball carrier, slow and steady progress up the middle. That's going to be about a 5-yard gain, 2nd and 5 at this point.
It's interesting that they ran that up the gut because this defensive line has been able to shift and wheel and turn and reposition themselves very well so far. So that's a gutsy maneuver by the Lancers.
Plenty of time on the clock. There's about 4:30 left on the clock, and so they don't have to do anything too quickly before the end of the quarter. Hand off to Adonis Hernandez again, but he gets stopped, and stopped hard by Will Cuddy.
And there's that defensive line again of Valley Christian.
Just stopping him cold.
Well, not only that, I think the Lancers went to the well one too many times with the running game straight ahead. Inside run, inside handoff, and this time the Warriors were ready for him.
So it's going to be about 3rd and 4th. Yet another critical play for the Lancers. They don't want to find themselves 4th down and a decision to make. This is the good time minimally to get the conversion, if not get a touchdown.
3 wide receivers, but they hand it off,
and the ball drops out.
Loose.
Picked up by number 15. He gets pushed out of bounds. Joshua Perry.
Perry ran into the end zone.
Joshua doesn't think he was tackled, but they're going to call him down. That was a near disaster. But all in all, it's going to be a loss of no yards, and so that's going to bring up 4th and 6.
That's about as lucky as you can get under those circumstances. They handed it off, and then I don't think that Adonis Hernandez ever had control of that ball.
A very quick-thinking Joshua Perry saw it and scooped it up and saved the play.
Well, that was their one shot at the end zone, Mark, so I think the Lancers must feel that they better get the 3.
And we have Matthew Carrick is good for 3 points. And so finally in the second quarter, we get the Lancers on the scoreboard, 7-3, Valley Christian over St. Francis with about 2:40 left. All right, we're back. We have Jurian Dickey and Charlie Kinney set for the return.
And Matthew Carrick is kicking it away. His longest kick, 65 yards. We'll see how he does this time.
Good kick. Charlie Kinney gets it. Charlie Kinney runs up the right-hand side, still going. Charlie Kinney goes midfield, finally gets dragged out about the 40-yard line into Lancers territory. So good run by Charlie Kinney.
Charlie Kinney not known for doing a whole lot of kickoff returns, so that may be his first one ever, and that was a dandy.
We've got to count up the yards. That was about a 50-yard return out there.
What a way to begin your career as a kick returner, huh?
You know, it's interesting. We had said that the Lancers were really beginning to turn the momentum in that last series, but here we go with that run. The Valley Christian is quickly turned it on them, and now they're already into Lancer territory.
With 2:33 to go.
And not a lot of options there.
Pretty clear that was a broken play. Berman, I don't think, really had any choices on that one.
Drew Rampelberg didn't have any place to throw it.
But he did pick up a yard.
Okay, we'll give him a yard, but that's still not enough at 2nd and 9.
No, it's not.
With a little bit more than 2 minutes, so.
I think both teams have all 3 of their timeouts.
That is correct. Chase Lawback again. Chase was able to get some yardage on that. We're going to see where they put that. It's going to be very close. It's probably going to be a little bit short of the first down.
Not by much. I think maybe half a yard there.
If even that.
So a Lawback.
So 3rd and 1 now.
The
and
thing
the
I
clock
like
is still ticking. I'm surprised that the Warriors aren't taking advantage of a timeout at this point. I mean, if they got 3 of them.
Well, I would think they would. The thing I was going to say, Chase Lawback just saw a great hole that was created by his offensive line. Okay, looked like he was headed for the end, but then cut back and was able to go through, I guess, the B gap or what was left of it.
Elijah McLemore is the ball carrier, and he's able to just get a couple yards out of it, but that is enough for a first down for the Valley Christian Warriors. And they do take a timeout, so that's going to be their first timeout of the half. They still have 2 timeouts left with 1 minute left in this half. We're going to go to break. We're back. 1st and 10. We have a sack. Drew Rampelberg couldn't get it off. Number 52, and Antonio Vacamilo got the stop, and that's going to be for a loss of about 5 yards. So that's going to bring up second and 15. Perhaps more important, there's only 52 seconds left on the clock.
Antonio had never had a sack before tonight. So that's his first right there.
If you're going to have a sack, this is a good time to have it, and so they take another timeout. They have 1 more left.
The thing I noticed now is that the St. Francis defense is really starting to tighten up. I mean, they were playing very loose. They were playing more of a zone defense when the game started. Now their coaches are dialing up more blitzes. They're making life more difficult for Jackson Berman. And Berman has not had an easy series. despite the fact that they were able to move into Lancer territory with that kickoff run.
Okay, the scoreboard looks a little messed up. They may have to fix that.
I think that's just the number of seconds. No,
there we go. 56 seconds. It said 53 minutes. We knew that was not right.
If it's 53 minutes, they've really changed the rules of of high school football. That's all I can tell you.
Well, many strange things in the pandemic. Okay, 2nd and 15.
Making up for lost time.
That's right. Drew Rampelberg again gets sacked all the way back. This is the 2nd sack in a row. He gets pushed out of Valley Christian, out of Lancer territory. He's back into Warrior territory, and so they're going to spot that about in the 2-yard line.
It's interesting that they're getting Rampelberg in. Berman had been the quarterback up to now, but let's see what happened there. It was a straight drop, and it was just dialed up blitz, okay, from all sorts of directions, and there was just no place to go. Drew Rampelberg is not known for being a great passer. He's only had 1 completion this year. Well, so it's interesting that he's on the field tonight.
And it feels like the Lancers have a fix on him. So now it's going to be 3rd and about 25. They're going to run the ball at the right side, but they're not going to get very far. They get stop at number 33. Isaiah Vavayo, and that's going to end the 2nd quarter. And so after 2 quarters of football, we have the Valley Christian Warriors lead 7-3 over the St. Francis Lancers.
Well, when we come back, we're going to see what both teams can do about this. Can Valley Christian continue their air assault? Will they continue to lean on their passing game, because that's been successful for them so far? For St. Francis, they've got to come in, they've got to make things happen, they've got to stop this Warrior offense, and they've got to put some points on the board, because they're certainly capable of it.
And what's most interesting to me in this game is we've really seen a number of momentum shifts between them. And at one point we thought that Valley Christian had all the momentum, and then St. Francis, then Valley Christian. It's back and forth. So we've got a very interesting 2 additional quarters left of football. We're going to have to see how this game plays out. This is by no certainty what's going to happen. So with that, we will come back later. Okay, we're back for the 2nd half of St. Francis Valley Christian versus I had the wrong. St. Francis versus Valley Christian. Yes, it's been a long night. We have 2-1 record for both teams, although right now Valley Christian has a slightly more league games and a better record associated with that. I'm going to turn to you, Mike. What is it going to take for either team to prevail in the 2nd half now? I mean, we've had a good half of action. What's the strategy? If you're the coach of either team, what are you telling your players?
If I'm with St. Francis, I'm going to tell them, because they are going to get the ball first in this 2nd half, they got to get that first one. Okay, they've got to make something happen quickly. They got to strike fast, and they probably have to go to their air game a little bit more, passing. So they've got to get that. Get more points on the board and then build on that. Now, I think Valley Christian also has to say, look, we're only ahead by 4 points. This is not a team that gives up and quits. They are playing on their own field. We can't pull out our tent. We can't stop now. We have to go back and continue to make things happen.
Now, again, if we look at the rosters of both teams, St. Francis has about 30 more players. Is that going to come to play in the 2nd half?
It very well might, because as you see St. Francis being able to make more and more substitutions and fresh players, or players that are not fatigued, that means they're going to be able to be more agile. They're going to be able to be more creative. It's going to depend on what kind of lead Valley Christian has and what kind of stamina these young men and women have down on the field. Yes, you can see, folks at home, we have Faces for Radio.
That's right. That's why we're just doing the announcing. So one thing they've cleaned up pretty well, actually, is the penalties. You know, St. Francis really had a lot of penalties in the 1st quarter. I don't think that's going to be an issue well, at least St. Francis hopes it won't be an issue in the second half.
Well, that's something that the coaches would probably have to talk to their players about. And unfortunately, that means they're going to have to buttonhole some of their players and say, look, you screwed up on this. And, you know, what happened here, if they can remember that. Penalties are a part of football, and so it's going to be interesting to see whether that trend continues. If it does, St. Francis is going to have twice as much work to do.
All right, we have Will Cuddy for the Warriors. The Lancers won the toss and deferred, so they're going to set to be receiving the second half. And that's going to be picked up by Phil Culberts from Villamatu. And actually, he doesn't get very far. He gets a stop at the 15-yard line.
And he bobbled that return, so he almost lost it completely. So it's probably lucky that he was able to get anything at all out of that one.
Not a really good start for St. Francis, but again, we've got a lot of football ahead of us right now. It's still a beautiful evening out. In this, the weather is about 65 degrees. We basically have no wind out there, or very, very little wind, and it's going to be 1st and 10 St. Francis.
Mark, you mentioned the penalties. 5 penalties on the Lancers, only 1 on the Warriors in the first half.
Again, looks like the Warriors did some thinking during the halftime, and they get the stop on that run. Looks like they're going to lose about a yard on that. That's going to be 2nd and 11 now.
I didn't see that they had the shift on before the ball was snapped, but it may not have mattered too much because they were covering that run very well. And the offensive line was kind of caught standing on that. Says a lot about the defensive line, their agility and maybe their upper body strength.
So do we think St. Francis is going to stick to the ground game for this first series?
Time will tell. I wouldn't if I were their coach, but that's why I am not a football coach.
And again, a handoff, and that the ball carrier was Villamatu, but again, just a couple yards on that. That's going to bring up 3rd and 7th, and you don't want to be 3rd and 7th with the ball on your 20.
Well, and you don't want to be 3rd and 7th anywhere on the field against the Valley Christian Warriors, because this defensive line is very, very smart. They have done their homework, as I said earlier.
Critical play again for St. Francis, and we're going to see what they do. 3rd and 7.
Is that Keller Gammons who's under center for the Lancers?
I think so. Keller Gammon actually, good throw, good catch by Phil Cumberson. That, you know, they were looking for some action. They got it. That's going to bring it all the way out, deep into Warrior territory. They're going to put that down on the 32.
And that was the big play that I was talking about a while back, Mark, is that was a huge play that's going to put a whole lot more spirit into the St. Francis offense, and that, I think, is the longest pass that Keller Gammons has thrown. He's not known for being a good scrambler, but he has thrown for long passes, and that's the longest he's done so far.
He rolled to the left, and that's still a heck of a completion from that distance. And again, a good momentum change back into Lancers. And that was bobbled and dropped.
Speaking of momentum.
And fortunately, that was recovered all at the same time by Keller. So I guess he did not get a hand on that.
Yeah, let's take a look at this again. I just don't think it was a good exchange.
No,
it was a bad snap there.
So disaster averted, and it's just going to leave 2nd and 10 at this point.
That was Hudson Mesa, the center, who came close to coughing that up for the Lancers.
Was it Hudson or was it Keller?
No, I'd say that was.
And the ball goes out and gets picked up and picked off, and so we'll see how they rule this. But the Warriors have the football, so we have a turnover.
What a way to disrupt momentum. You have the bad exchange on the last play, and then you have a big mistake, probably a communications error here. Let's take a look at it.
Handoff. It wasn't a handoff.
No,
actually,
it was a sack.
Sack, actually. Now, the question is, are they going to rule that he was moving his arm forward? Hard to tell. It almost looks like an incomplete pass, but they have ruled it a turnover at this point.
I think under the high school rules, that would be considered a fumble.
All right. Well, whatever we think, it is a turnover. Valley Christian 1st and 10 on their own 40-yard line.
And we're going to get
Jake was
going to get a penalty on that one.
Jegbu is the ball carrier, but we'll see what happens with this. That flag came out pretty quickly. And that is going to go against. Holding against Valley Christian. And that's going to hurt a little bit. They're going to put that back in the 30. That's going to leave first in about 15.
As the late Keith Jackson said, we're going to get a little hold in here.
You know, every time I'm watching this game and I think that one side has the advantage, we're just seeing all these mistakes and other things that happen. And it's anybody's football game at this point.
But I have to say, though, Mark, that the key mistakes have been made by St. Francis so far. The fumbles, the penalties.
We have a completion to number 13. Jurian Dickey. Jurian has it, but he's only able to get 10 yards of that, and so that's still going to leave 3rd and 10 after that.
So it was a good play, good reception. It was just not as long as they needed. And I think we're bringing up a 2nd down here.
Ane Nagarajan actually gets the stop. That could have gone a lot farther, but held them back. 2nd and 10.
Play action.
Oh, good throw to Jurian Dickey. Jurian takes it. He's trying to weave through, but he gets a little bit farther, but there are lots of laundry on the field here.
Yeah, I think you may see a late hit called against St. Francis. But St. Francis doesn't think they did it. They think it's on Valley Christian, and Valley Christian's walking backwards. So,
yeah. So that's going to be a personal foul, as you said, against Valley Christian. Now Valley Christian's making the mistakes.
And that's going to really hurt. Jurian Dickey made a great effort on that. He's a really important cog in this game, Mark. I mean, he can beat you with his feet. He's taken passes out of the backfield as well. And he's scored 3 touchdowns for this team.
And now they're looking at 2nd and 22.
Great block there as Jurian was trying to come around there. And it looks like it was William Wright, the center, who was throwing that block. So unfortunate that they got called for that penalty.
Almost got a sack on that, but not quite, and he's able to maneuver out of it. So Jackson Berman makes his way about the 40-yard line. He picks up 10 yards, but now we're back to 3rd and 10.
Let's see if we can see that blitz that was just dialed up there by the Lancers. So that may have been an attempt at a screen pass, because I don't see there was a whole lot on our right, the left side of the ball. I don't see a whole lot of effort there at blocking. And you can see there that the blitz was coming particularly from Joe Tongamoa, who has gotten 11 tackles, almost had 12 that one, and he has picked up a sack. So good strategy there by the Lancer defense.
Berman again, he's running up the left-hand side, making it all the way out to midfield. Keep on going, gets all the way down to about the 41-yard line. Jackson Berman with a good run. He's able to make up for the long distance, make the 1st down, and get all the way into Lancer territory with that.
Mark, I think that was Jackson Berman's longest run from scrimmage. He's usually 27 was his longest coming into tonight. Let's see. And again, I think he just realized he was going to take off. That was not a design play. That was a broken play, but it was really successful. Good on Jackson.
Yes, and he was able to turn a bad play action into something very good. And again, they're now 1st and 10.
Another thing about Jackson Berman, Mark, is that he's converted 2-point conversions 4 times this season. So that may become a factor if they go for 2.
There we go. Running up the right-hand side, Jake Ojedbu, and Jake is able to get about 5 yards, 4 yards. We're going to see where they're going to put that. Yeah, about 5 yards, 2nd and 5. We have about 6 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. Not a high-scoring game, really dominated by the defense. 7-3 Valley Christian over the Lancers still as they try and make their way and put some more points on the board.
You know, Mark, you were talking about the fatigue factor. So far, I haven't seen it from Valley Christian. I haven't seen them moving particularly slowly. I've seen them mixing up their plays more. So far, fatigue has not been a factor for the boys in white.
Handoff, running up the left-hand side. The flag comes down, and he gets brought down finally about the 30-yard line.
That was Chase Laubach again.
But we'll see what this one's about. Again, the 2nd quarter didn't have a lot of penalties, but it seems to be like we've returned back in the 1st quarter. But this time, a lot of the penalties are going against the Warriors, and they're walking backwards. So that's going to be holding against Valley Christian. And again, just mistakes.
The difference that I've seen so far is that when Valley Christian has made some mistakes, and they've made some really bad unforced errors, they've been able to turn it around and turn negatives into positives. I haven't seen that resilience so far tonight from the Lancers. But as you said, we've got a decent amount of football left to play tonight.
Well, Valley Christian's been pretty good about making some big plays at the right time, but you can't score on a continuing basis with that. They've got to be a little bit more disciplined. Okay, that's going to be a short pass that's going to go up left-hand side, but he drops the ball, but it rolls out of bounds. Elijah McLemore was the ball carrier on there and got the pass completion, and so fortunately that rolled out of bounds and not into some Lancers' hands.
Let's see that again. And again, that was a blitz dialed up. That was not intended to be a screen pass. So again,
I'm trying to see whether Ryan Becker actually got a hand on that ball or it was just dropped. Ryan Becker may have been able to punch that out.
I didn't see whether it happened or not, but the point I was making is that they were dialing up some really aggressive blitzes, and that's maybe St. Francis modus operandi in trying to stop the Warriors.
3rd and 5 for the Warriors now. And Jackson Berman tries to elude a tackle. He's working about 4 tackles so far. He's now actually making all the way down, and that could have ended in a lot of problems for Jackson, but going back and forth, he was able to weave and actually get some positive yardage. But the bad news is it's now going to be 4th down for them.
Yeah, he's shaking his head, on that one. I mean, he did the right thing rolling right because he was setting up with a 2 wide receiver set both to the right side, and he just couldn't find an opening. Can you look at how much ground he covers just trying to stay away from tacklers? I mean, he's got to be out of breath, and he doesn't have much to show for it at the end. So kudos for his agility, but at the end of the day, Valley Christian's having to kick it away.
Little surprised they're going to kick with the ball. They obviously want to pin them back, and they're going to be able to do that very successfully. We're going to see where they touch that. It is not a touchback, and it looks like they're going to put that down. That's going to end up, and they're going to spot that all the way back on somewhere around the 1 or 2 yard line. So their strategy was to pin the Lancers back. They've done that very successfully with that kick.
So good things do happen. No, I think, Mark, I think that they did rule that as a touchback because the.
Okay, you're right. You're right. It was close, and so they're going to spot that on the 20.
Yes, they do. That's what they do for high school football. But that would have been known as your perfect punt. I mean, if that had actually been marked at the 1 yard line, it wouldn't get any better than that in the NFL or any place else.
That was close. Okay, St. Francis ball, 1st and 10. Trying to drive it up the middle. And again, we're just sort of seeing this sluggish offensive line trying to push their way through only for a 2-yard gain.
I'm surprised that they're still doing those inside runs, Mark, because we've seen how effective this very solid Valley Christian defense has been, and they've been particularly good at inside handoffs. So why the Lancers are persisting in this, I don't know.
And they have been successful, the Lancers going on the outside. But again, they go up the middle and they go nowhere. Villamatu, the ball carrier, and he's going to probably lose a yard on that or very close to that.
What I want to see, if we can see that one again, is that I'd like to see what the scheme is. Well, we don't really have a good example of that, but we do see some really good penetration. Okay. Whether it was bad blocking by the Lancers, no. Okay, so that was it looked like it was a 4-down lineman defense. It seems to have worked pretty well.
Dominic Oliver, captain of the Warriors, for the stop on there. 3rd and 7, and again, the Lancers are looking at trying to get another conversion out of this. And we've got a sack down there. Dominic Oliver again getting the sack, critical sack, and that's going to push him down. It's going to be 4th down, and St. Francis is going to have to kick the ball. Couldn't capitalize on that last series.
That was Perry who was under center, and you can see that the blitz there was just relentless. And in particular, I think that was Dominic Oliver who got in for the sack. That's his 4th one of the night, or 4th one of the season, rather.
So I'm going to wonder, is St. Francis the one now getting a little bit tired? And the kick goes off. Good kick. That's going to land about midfield.
Oh, big mistake there by the receiver. He should have probably called for a fair catch on that.
Yes, but we have a flag down. I'm going to say there may have been a horse collar on that, but let's see.
Yeah, there was some extracurricular pushing and shoving at the end of that one, too.
Let's see what the flag says. Although Valley Christian keeps on walking backwards, so we suspect it's against them.
Well, one of the officials is pointing towards the Lancers, so I don't know.
No, they're walking it back, so.
Okay.
So that was an illegal block against the Warriors, and so now the mistakes, the penalties are accumulating on the Warrior side.
Well, the penalty, that was unfortunate, but I think the larger issue on that return was that he saw, or should have seen, that the special teams coverage was bearing down on him. He could have either called for a fair catch or just taken the ball and fallen on it, or maybe even run out of bounds. So the penalty was hurtful, but I think the decision by the receiver there had as much to do with it.
Had he called a fair catch, the ball would be on the 50-yard line, and it's now spotted on the 35. About 3 minutes left right now in this third quarter.
I think that's 30 seconds, actually, Mark.
Oh, yes, thank you. Jackson Berman not getting very far. And we're going to see where they spot that. That's not a tackle for a loss, but that's basically no gain. 2nd and 10 out of that.
think Jackson just saw there was no place to go on that one. Not much else to say about it.
And with that, we're out of time as the 30 seconds we had previously are gone. And now, after 3 quarters of football, the Valley Christian Warriors continue to lead 7-3 over the St. Francis Lancers. And we're going to take a quick break. Okay, beginning of the 4th quarter. Warriors ball, 2nd and 10. Number 2, Andrew Beldy, running up the right-hand side, gets a little bit out of that.
You know, Mark, we were talking at the beginning of the second half that St. Francis had to come in and get that first one, and they didn't do it. And it is probably a little disheartening for them. They're certainly still within striking distance, but they needed to start the second half with more authority, and they failed to do that.
True, but the Valley Christian Warriors, who started fairly strong in the first quarter, are now facing yet another 3rd down with the ball on their own 42-yard line. So they've got to make something work on this play.
Big 3rd down.
That's going to be very close. We're going to see if he got the first down, whether they mark it or not, where they mark it.
He went down near the marker, and I don't know.
Lawbuck was the ball carrier on that. And nope, that's going to be short. That's going to be 4th and just a little bit. So very interesting. Will the Warriors go for this, or are they just going to go ahead and kick?
What would you do in this, Mark? I mean, if you were coaching the Warriors, seeing where the game is and what the score is, what would you tell your team to do?
I would actually go for it. I've seen the Warriors tend to be more successful when they're a little bit more bold. This is a bold play. Yes, it's a risk. They need to change the momentum. And so if I were coaching, and it looks like they're taking my advice, except just as the play goes off, we got flags down. So
I don't know if they're going to even allow that play to stand.
That's going to be a false start, and so that's going to be 5 yards. So now it's a different situation. Instead of being 4th and just a little bit, it's going to be 4th and 5. And so now they're probably going to have to kick the ball, but we'll see.
You know, it's certainly disappointing, but on the other hand, I would feel confident in kicking it away, assuming it's not blocked, because St. Francis hasn't shown yet that they can really capitalize on Valley Christian's mistakes. You pointed out correctly that Valley Christian has made its share of mistakes in the second half. St. Francis hasn't proved they can do anything with those.
They do get kick away. That's actually good. Fielded out there by number 33, Chase Lawback, and Chase brings it up about to the 25-yard line. Yeah, but if I'm the Valley Christian head coach, I am not going to feel comfortable sitting on just a 4-point lead. I want to make it at least a 2-possession ball game.
Oh, definitely.
And so I got to continue to be bold, because the minute you just sort of rest back on that, you could quickly find yourself behind in this ball game.
Especially against the St. Francis Lancers playing on their own home field.
And again, just a reminder, last week both of these teams had a blowout game, and so they're both fresh and ready to go. You just can't relax with either team. 1st and 10. Number 4 is running. Good, trying to find a crease on the left-hand side. Villamatu doesn't quite find anything. Again, I think they need to try a little bit more variety. He was able to get 5 yards out of that, which I guess is okay, but I'd like to see a little bit more if I were the Lancers coach on that.
He was trying to, I think he was trying to do an off-tackle run. Didn't see any daylight there, so headed a little bit more for the sidelines. But I think it was the Valley Christian safeties that were playing particularly well on that one. Good coverage on that, maybe one of the cornerbacks. It was the cornerbacks.
Clearly one of the strengths of Valley Christian is reading the offensive line and engaging on the run play. We've talked about when they're doing the shift when necessary. We'll see if they can keep that up. Short little pitch out to the right. Actually, first down to midfield, and gets finally stopped. But that's a good play.
And again, it was not, I don't think it went up the field. It might have been even slightly backwards. But it says a lot about that receiver that he was able to come back and get such a positive gain on that. And now they're in Warrior territory with about 9 minutes to go in the game.
So we'll see who Little short pitch out there.
That was to Camilo Arquette.
And Camilo was able to make something of that. Good play on his part.
And Camilo is a great runner and a great receiver. So
First
that
and
was a
10,
wise
Lancers
choice.
ball in Warrior territory, but we have another flag down. And we're gonna see who started first on this. So this is going to be against the Warriors. So it's going to be 1st and 5 for the Lancers.
Mark, now I'm beginning to see what may be some fatigue, because you can see that there's a little bit more frustration, a little bit more pushing and shoving done by the Warriors after the whistle is blown. So if it isn't fatigue, it may be a little bit of confusion, a little bit of frustration. But that was absolutely an encroachment call.
A lot of these players did do their own self-practice during the offseason, but remember, normally in a normal season, these teams oftentimes have the spring and many weeks during the summer to build up their stamina. With this really a shortened season, stamina is harder for them to get. 1st and 5. Long pass, intended number 7, broken up by Jamar Morris. Intended for Philip Culbertson.
That was amazing coverage right there, and it was a gutsy throw to make. You can see that he had 1, 2, 3 white shirts all the way around him there. Okay, Jamar Morris, I think, was the one who was most responsible for the incompletion. Okay, the cornerback. And Jamar is 6 feet tall, so he had a pretty good height there. I don't know if he was taller than the receiver, but he certainly used his height to his advantage.
And the officials all over it, no PI on that one. 2nd and 5. This time they run up the middle, and they actually break through. So good play finally.
Yep, and that may be another indication that Valley Christian's beginning to get worn out. We've got 8 minutes left, and for one of the few times in this game, they have their defensive line did not come through particularly well for them.
Camilo Arquette, the ball carrier, enough for the 1st down. So I wonder, are we going to see a change in strategy of the Lancers? Maybe they've been just trying to punch up the middle, waiting for the fatigue, and now if the fatigue is beginning to set in, they're going to continue to do that.
Well, they are deploying more wide receivers now, but they
go up
still
the
going
middle
to the
again,
ground
and
game.
yes, and they have another 1st down on that one.
Another factor in this, Mark, you can see they haven't called a timeout, and since the ball is still in the middle of the field, they're letting the clock roll. So
Camilo Arquette, the ball carrier, there's about 7 minutes left in this 1st quarter, 4th quarter, I mean.
Valley Christian isn't able necessarily to get a second win. Although the Lancers are going with a huddle, okay, they're not giving Valley Christian a ton of time to get, what would you call it, recombobulated?
So I may have misspoke. It's not a 1st down. It's very close. It's going to be 2nd and about a couple feet. So they didn't get the 1st down, but very good play nonetheless. There we have the 1st down. Again running up the middle. Again with Camilo Arquette.
Did you notice, Mark, that in those last 2 plays, the Lancers have deployed wide receivers out to the left, and they didn't use either of them? So that may be their strategy now, is to spread the defense as much as they possibly can, realizing that there's limited time and they're down by 4.
And so we have a timeout. That's for an official timeout for an injured player. So was wondering if the Warriors were going to call a timeout just to stop the momentum a little bit, but no, they're going to keep on going at it.
That's Nehemiah Musika, who just walked off, a defensive tackle. He was holding his nose, so we'll see whether he'll be back. He didn't look like he was terribly injured.
Okay, 1st and 10 Lancers deep into Warrior territory, ball on the 18-yard line. Another handoff off the middle, again to Camilo Arquette, and again he makes some good progress. Not quite enough for the 1st down, but he's going to make it all the way down to about the 11-yard line. Let's see where they spot that. Maybe the 10. That's going to leave 2nd and a yard. I wonder if this has been the Lancers' strategy all night. They just knew pretty soon that the Warriors are going to get tired, and they know if they run up the middle, pretty soon it's going to be successful.
Well, tired, and the fact that they can't make as many substitutions with rested players. Not as much depth just because they have a smaller roster.
Okay, 2nd and 1. Hand up, Arquette up the middle, and that's going to be, we'll see where they mark it, and yes, that is a first down. They're going to pull the chains forward. You know, one of the things about the pandemic is that we've seen some teams have fairly stable rosters, but we've also seen some players across a number of the teams in the league, that seniors especially, that have not participated in football, and that's really caused a lot of the coaches oftentimes to work with a smaller roster or different players than they had the previous 3 years.
You know, there's another tactic in addition to what you're saying here, Mark, is that the counts from during the snap are very short. So they haven't had a chance to do the shift on the defense that they've tried to do in the past. Did you see how quick that count was?
Hand off to Arquette, and he's going to run in the middle. Touchdown for the St. Francis Lancers. Same play, and this time, this whole drive, very successful. Camilo Arquette running. I'll let Mike add up the yards on that, but very, very good play total for that. And that's going to put the Lancers ahead of the Warriors. The Lancers now lead 9-7.
Straight ahead 3 or 4 different times. There's only one explanation for that, and that is that Valley Christian's defensive line can no longer stop that running play. Okay, and I think it's fatigue because it's certainly not being out-muscled.
Matthew Carrick for the PAT, and Matthew's kick is good, and so that's going to bring 10-7. St. Francis over Valley Christian.
Matthew Carrick, who's missed only 1 PAT this season, so he's kicked 9, missed 1. Not bad kicking.
That's an A average in my book. So if you're the Warrior coach right now, what are you thinking to yourself? What are you going to be able to do?
Well, you're thinking that you've got to use the clock wisely. They've still got their 3 timeouts. They're only down by a field goal. I would think that if they want to win this, because they are getting, fatigue is becoming an issue, and it'll become an issue for the Lancers as well. So I would think it's as much clock management as it is anything else from here on in, Mark.
Well, and you also want to make sure that your offense can hold on to the ball. Obviously, the very old cliche, best defense is good offense. Well, a good offense also allows the defense to rest. And I've got to think that the Warrior defense is tired. So the longer that the offense can either score or extend this drive, the better for them. And we have Carrick as the kicker. Little squib kick gets picked up by number 24. He's going to make it about to the 44-yard line, but we've got a late hit. We've got benches being cleared here. Flags down.
Yeah,
quickly the refs get in there and the coaches get in and separate the players. Obviously, tempers are running hot on both sides.
Well, the great disadvantage that any football coach has when recruiting players is that he has to recruit them from the human race, and that is evidence of that, something we just saw there. That's going to be probably an unnecessary roughness. I don't know who it's going to be on. My guess would be the Lancers.
Or unsportsmanlike conduct.
And they are pointing against the Lancers.
Okay, that's going to be personal foul. And that's what we thought, a personal foul against St. Francis, and so that's going to move the ball into St. Francis territory. You know, on one hand, coaches want players with heart. They want players with emotion. They want players with drive, except when it puts them in a penalty situation. That's a very fine line that coaches are always trying to manage.
Well, let's take a look at this return here. And he was slung out very hard, okay, and I don't know that I would have called a personal foul on that, but I certainly would have called a penalty on it. And now this changes this may change the whole strategy for the Warriors going forward.
1st and 10 Warriors, ball on their own, on the Lancers' 42-yard line. And now Jake Ojedbu is going to try and run it up the right-hand side. He's going to get just a little bit out of that, but not quite enough.
No, he did get a short gain on that. That was probably off guard, between the tackle and the guard, or what we call the B gap on that one. A good second effort on that one, though.
You know, we were criticizing the Lancers during the third quarter for the tendency to run up the middle, but they obviously proved a very successful strategy. I wonder if the Warriors are going to try and do that and to see if they can get some fatigue out of the Lancers.
Well, it's also, again, it's a clock management thing, okay? If they can get to the point where they score, take the lead, and not leave any time on the clock for St. Francis, they've done their job.
Looks like they're going to try and throw the ball if he doesn't run out of time. And he finally gets pushed out. Jackson was looking for some place to throw it, finally ran out of options and ran out. And so after all that, it's going to be a loss of a yard, 3rd and 11 for the Warriors.
Although, if you think about that, that could have been much, much worse. Let's take a look at what Jackson does. Rolls a little bit, now rolls a little bit more to his right, doesn't see anyone, tries to cut back towards the center of the field, sees somebody bearing down on him. There was a nice block that he got from his offensive line to try to buy time for him. And that was Nehemiah Musika, again, who is back on the field after taking a series out there.
Now the Warriors have a critical play, 3rd and 11. There's about a little less than 4 minutes left in the quarter. They're down. Very important drive for them.
This is a huge play right here, Mark.
Good throw. Good catch. Running 13, running all the way into the 10. Finally gets stopped and brought down about the 4-yard line. That was Jurian Dickey again for the completion, and he was not only able to hold on to it, he was able to actually add a lot onto that. And so that was the play that the Warriors were looking for. And it's interesting, with the pandemic, we of course have limited capacity in the stadium, but of the fans that are here, we're seeing a lot of emotion on both sides. It feels like a big crowd, which is a great thing.
That was 90% successful execution on the part of Valley Christian and 10% a bad defensive read by St. Francis. They were playing them very loose. It was good pass coverage, but they were not taking into account the talent of that wide receiver, Jurian Dickey, who's 6'2".
Okay, we have a run up the right on this. And that is going to be very close.
He was over on the pylon, and I don't know.
Again, but we don't see any signal, so we're going to have to assume he got pushed out of bounds, but that's going to be very close in goal.
Just to finish my thought on Jurian Dickey, okay.
Although we do have a flag down, it looks like.
Jurian Dickey, 6'2", and he had to jump very vertical to get that one. But that could have been read better by St. Francis, and that's why we find ourselves in the position we're in right now.
So that's going to be a holding penalty against Valley Christian, and that's going to push him back from very little in goal to about on the 12-yard line, and that's going to be 1st and goal for them. Again, another mistake. You know, it's a lot easier, obviously, to score from the 1 than it is from the 12, and so got to stop those penalties.
And they would have had a case.
That was well overthrown.
And I think Valley Christian wants a PI, and they're not going to get it.
Yeah, we'll see if they say that's uncatchable. I would suspect so. Well, there's no flags down, and so that's just going to fall simply as an incomplete pass.
You know, Mark, before that holding penalty, when I was glancing at the replay of that, I think Valley Christian might have had a case that they'd scored a touchdown.
Well, they may have, but it was not ruled out, and so as we are in high school football, next play.
Yep, no instant replays in this game.
All right, that's going to bring up 2nd and 12. And that's going to be a run up the middle that also goes nowhere. Chase Lawback, the ball carrier on that. And, you know, we have another 3rd and 12. And so here's going to be very interesting. If they can get this conversion, good. We have a timeout. If not, you know, they're going to be faced with a very interesting situation of whether they want to tie or they want to go for it.
Well, if I am the Valley Christian coach at this point, Mark, I'm going to tell them you're going to get that wide receiver set that they'd been using in the past, that they'd been successful with to spread the defense and try to get that first down, because to cough the ball up at this point would mean, and I don't know if they're in their range for their field goal kicker, but if they have to cough up the ball now, they may be sealing their own fate.
Timeout by Valley Christian on that, and that's going to leave them 2 timeouts. Obviously, they're keeping an eye on the clock. A little bit more than 3 minutes left in this football game.
Actually, it was St. Francis who called that.
Okay.
And look at how they're lining up for this third down, Mark. 4 wide receivers.
And we have another stop.
I didn't see a flag.
That's going to be a timeout, and that's going to be a timeout that the Lancers take. If I've got that correct.
It's interesting that they would take 2 timeouts in a row.
I don't think they can. So that makes me think that each team has actually had 1 timeout.
Well, the scoreboard says that they did.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Now, that may be another thing. I don't think that is miscommunication. I don't think that's a change in plans. I think St. Francis may have just, their coaches saw something they didn't like. Miscommunication again, and as this evening is worn on, and because they have had less time to gel as a team and get their communication really tight, that becomes a factor in the later stages of this ball game.
Okay, well, but clock management is going to be important for both teams, and so be careful of how, you obviously need to react if you see something you don't like, but you also do not want to squander those timeouts when it's a close ball game. And this play does go off. And that ball is going to fall down incomplete.
That throw was over the middle. They were using the exact set that I thought they would. Let's see if we can see. Was there pressure on him? There was a little.
A little bit, but not too much. And just couldn't hold on to it.
And I thought that they would have problems because they were not playing a press defense there.
Okay, it is 4th down. It looks like they're going to go for the field goal on this. They're going to just try and tie up the ball game.
That's Will Cuddy. He's never missed a field goal.
And that is good. And so we have a tie football game, 10 for St. Francis and 10 for Valley Christian.
So now this puts the Lancers in a kind of a prove-it position. I mean, they want this game very badly. They got 3 minutes and 1 timeout to work with. Will they be able to punch the ball in and get an advantage, or will they make a mistake? We've seen them do both at different stages during this game.
Well, and credit goes to the Lancers' defense for getting the stop and forcing them to go for a field goal. For a while there, it looked like they're going to march all the way down to the end zone. Almost got there. And again, shame on the Warriors for the penalties. Had they not had those penalties, they may instead of be looking at a touchdown and being ahead in this ball game versus just being tied.
Well, it does give us more to talk about, though, doesn't it?
I love this. We missed football in the fall. I'm so happy to have it back, and it is a short season, but it's wonderful to have a season, and we're obviously looking again when football comes in the fall.
And we're going to see a lot of these folks on the field again in the fall, Mark.
There we have Cuddy the kick, and we have for the return picked up on the 5-yard line. Going all the way out down to the 35.
That was a heck of a return. That was Camilo Arquette, I think.
Arquette again. Okay, Arquette, a lot of yards on this. And he was able to make something out of not a lot there.
Isn't that the second return he's made tonight?
Yes, it is.
And both of them have been pretty pronounced, so good on him.
So now we're going to see, are the Lancers going to go to their strategy that was used last time of just trying to run it up the middle and see if they can wear out the Warriors?
Boy, Valley Christian, the fans that have shown up here are making some noise.
And that's good for 2. And like we predicted, they're just going to keep on running up the middle.
And again, clock management going to be an issue.
Especially if you're St. Francis with only 1 timeout left.
Well, this may be part of their strategy, is that they're going to try to get whatever points they can and leave no time on the clock for the Warriors.
So minimally, they're going to try and obviously get into field goal range. Good push forward. And again, Arquette, the ball carrier. A lot of stamina with Arquette tonight. A lot of running up the middle. A lot of good plays. That's going to leave 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. We've said this all night. Yet another critical 3rd down conversion play for the Lancers. There's still, the ball's going to be on the, they're going to spot that on about the 44-yard line.
And they haven't used that last time out yet.
And the clock is at about 1 minute and 37 seconds, so time is a factor at this point. And just as the snap, we have flags go off.
And that is a critical mistake by Valley Christian if that call goes the way I think it is.
And it looks like, yes, it is. And so that penalty is going to give the Lancers not only a 1st down, it's going to stop the clock, it's going to bring the ball on the 49-yard line. Again, a big, big mistake. This was their chance to hold them back, and now they've got 4 more tries.
Now, they were anxious to get that blitz off, and it turns out they were too anxious. But you can see that they're dialing up blitz, and here it comes.
But we've got Arquette up the left-hand side. He's going to make it all the way. We're going to see where they mark him with forward progress, but good run up the left-hand side. I'm guessing that the Warriors are going to anticipate that Arquette's going to be the ball carrier.
And did St. Francis take their last time out?
Yes, they did. And so St. Francis has no more timeouts left. 1 minute and 1 second left in this game.
Now, here's the thing that's going to get interesting, though, Mark, is that if St. Francis scores and they leave any appreciable time on the clock for Valley Christian's got all 3 of its timeouts. So they'll be able to make use of that. Obviously, they're still going to need to be very, very conscientious of it, but they're going to have a chance to talk about and think about how they're going to execute their final plays.
Well, and you also wonder to what extent are the Lancers going to continue with their run-up-the-middle strategy, not being able to stop the clock, or are they going to go more for the edges or maybe even throw the ball a little bit?
Well, they may also have to spike it, too.
We have about 1 minute and 1 second left, and we have 2nd and 1 yard left. Obviously, the Lancers realize that the plays are limited, so this is another critical play for them. Be interesting to see if the Lancers are going to try and draw the Warriors off sides. They've been successful so far in doing that.
Well, and there's more blitzes coming.
Long throw intended
for Brogan. It's picked
we got
off.
Picked off. Jake Ojedbu got the pick. And that is going to turn around this ball game. 54 seconds left. That turnover is going to give the Warriors possession of the ball on their own 9-yard line.
What a play. That was a gutsy call by St. Francis, going for broke, wanting to punch those points in. Good pass, just not well read by St. Francis.
I had that wrong. Charlie Kinney was the one. Charlie Kinney with the pick. Good pick from Charlie. Charlie when he was a freshman sophomore, was well known for his ability to get the pick on the ball, and so good play for Charlie on that critical play for the game.
And that's a second pick he's had this year, Mark. So now Valley Christian, what are they going to do?
54 seconds left. They're going to run it up the right-hand side and go nowhere.
And this is where those timeouts come in to play. They realize they're way back in their own territory.
The clock is still running. It is down to 40 seconds left in this game. You think if they were going to take it, they would take it now, but not yet. Nope, they're going to let that clock run.
Interesting strategy. I'm wondering what their thinking is on this. I mean, they may be trying to, they may have something up
We
their
have
sleeve.
a tied ball game. Second and 10. And again, they just try and run up the middle. Not a very bold play as time. 8 seconds left on the clock.
I think they're going to just either take the tie or try to overtime it.
And with that, we have the end of the fourth quarter. So that is not quite yet the end of the ball game. We're gonna take a quick break and bring you back to the action. Okay, after 4 quarters, we have a tie ball game, and we're dusting off the rule book, a little bit of pandemic memory loss here. The ball gets placed on the 20-yard line. Each team gets 4 downs, not necessarily can't convert those, and it goes back and forth. Each team gets it put on the 20-yard line and sees how far they can get it. And if both teams score, then they keep on going. If one team scores and the other one doesn't, it's the end of the ball game. Or if neither team scores after they both have possession of putting the ball on the 20-yard line, it becomes a sudden death contest. So we think that's right, but we'll see we'll see what the rules are. But we believe that, and they're going to have the coin toss to see who gets it first.
We can honestly say that this is the first time this has happened in 2021. So we are relying on a lot of institutional memory. But it is going to be, this is going to be a very entertaining finish to what has been a very entertaining ball game, Mark.
We told you this was going to be a great game, and it has not let us down. And both of these teams are coming here tonight thinking that this is their game to win. Obviously, the officials are explaining the format, and we're going to see who gets the coin toss. You know, if you're getting this, do you want to win it first? Do you want to just score and put it on the board, or do you want to get it second?
This one, I think, is kind of a wash. We did see Valley Christian score first, and they did maintain that lead for quite a while during the course of the game. So I would say it's a marginal advantage to Valley Christian if they can get the ball first, but I don't think it's necessarily a deal maker or a deal breaker.
It seems like St. Francis had a lot of momentum despite that one pick at the end. I'm wondering, do they want to see the advantage because they feel like they've got more of the momentum? And quite frankly, they're less tired at this point. And if they can put some points on the board first, that's going to be a big challenge against the Warriors.
Indeed it is. But as we've seen, I mean, both teams have executed and failed to execute. And if we didn't have a mix like that, then we wouldn't be in an overtime game.
So Valley Christian wins the coin toss, and they're going to put the ball on the 20, and then again they have 4 downs with no conversion associated with that. So basically 4 tries to be able to score.
And if we're understanding the rules correctly here, Mark, the clock is not an issue.
Yes, this is all an untimed play.
So timeouts are not an issue. Out of bounds is not an issue in terms of stopping the clock. This is just 4 downs. Do you do it or don't you?
This is sort of like backyard football when we were kids. We didn't have a clock and we just did downs.
Now, I didn't play with a helmet and shoulder pads when I was a kid playing in the backyard. Did you?
And we did many things back then. We won't let our own kids do these days.
No, we won't. Stephen, if you're ever watching this, you don't get to do this.
Okay, the ball is put on the 10-yard line, so not the 20, just to correct ourselves. And obviously, Valley Christian has 4 chances to be able to score on this. Handoff, run off the middle. Arquette bounces it back and around, blocks 1 tackle, but on the second one gets stopped with basically no gain.
So
and that's going to bring up their second. I'm not going to even say down. I'm going to say second try.
Their second attempt, yes. So interesting that Valley Christian, probably to give their offense a little bit of a rest, okay, chose to defer when they could have taken the ball first.
I think they have the momentum on their way. They think that they're tired, and so they're going to try and take advantage of it. And again, I would not be surprised to see Arquette try and run through the middle on this. And Arquette tries to run through the middle, and this time they obviously anticipate that, and he gets pushed back for no gain.
Same strategy as we've seen, that they had a wide receiver set, at least 2 receivers out to the left trying to spread that defense, but Valley Christian was all over it again.
This is going to bring up the 3rd attempt, and they got out to about the 8-yard line, so maybe a couple yards on that.
That's MJ Artmore, who just ran onto the field, number 10 for the Lancers.
You know, I'm a little surprised that Lancers have not done more substitutions. You know, with the size of their roster, you keep their players fresher, and obviously they put a lot this is a game for Arquette. He's been doing a lot of the work out there. At what point is he going to get tired?
Well, tired, and the more tired you are, the more liable you are to get injured, too.
Okay, here we go. Short pass, and that is dropped.
In and out of the hands of, that was MJ Artmore again.
That's right. That's why they brought Artmore in. Almost had it. Couldn't quite hold on to it. We can see.
See, Artmore was lined up in the slot there and did a crossing route.
He was open, just couldn't keep hold on to it.
And that was very well covered by Valley Christian. We have to say that too.
All right, this is their 4th attempt, and if they don't get this one, and then the ball goes to the
they're going to kick a field goal.
Oh, okay, so they're going to go for the 3 points. Let's take the points on the board. There we go. Probably smart strategy on them, because if they had 0, all it would take would be a field goal for the Warriors to be able to win. And so
there you go.
You know, different rules, different strategy.
So now Valley Christian wins with a touchdown.
And continues with a field goal. So obviously the first 3 tries are going to be for a touchdown. Relatively small crowd versus what we're used to at these football games, but the spirit is here. We've got lots of parents, lots of others really into this game, and it just feels good.
Well, they are sitting there trying to maintain social distancing. That's one of the reasons why it's so spread out, but still a lot of spirit.
And they're going to run up the right side, but they are going to be stopped.
That was a great second effort, though, by the ball carrier. He did gain something. Clearly, he didn't get into the end zone, but that was Jake Ojegbu, I think.
And looks like he was able to get about 3 yards on this. Keep in mind, it's also critical that you hold on to the ball, because at this point, any fumble or any turnover would be the end of the ball game.
Correct.
It's interesting how both teams are really taking their time. We're not seeing any hurry-up offense on this.
Well, they have certainly no need to. And you notice Valley Christian actually made some forward progress. They are St. Francis had to do everything from the 10-yard line.
And we have a long pitch intended for 13, and that is caught. Touchdown for Valley Christian, and Valley Christian is going to take the win tonight with that touchdown.
And there's your ball game, and the Warriors, they're killing that receiver. And look at the backflip that was done there by Jackson Berman.
And so with that, well-fought game on both sides, well played by everybody, but finally Valley Christian gets the win. I think that St. Francis can still be very happy and proud about a very well-fought season, and Valley Christian does get the win.
Yeah, they've got, the Lancers have nothing to be ashamed of. They put in a heck of an effort on the last game of the season, and they've got a lot to be proud of, but right now, Valley Christian is the winner.
So wrapping it up from Mountain View, final score, Valley Christian Warriors 16, St. Francis Lancers 13.
So our director tonight was Josh Young. Thanks, Josh, for inviting us along. Tim Erskine was our truck engineer and cameraman. Breen Yuen on the other camera. Robin Frank also doing a part on the camera. Special thanks to St. Francis High School and the Brothers of the Holy Cross. For Mark Diamond, I'm Mike Messner, reminding you, run for the roses, but don't forget to stop and smell them. Good night, everyone. See you next time.
Goodbye.